Let's talk about the second part of 4-7. This specifically is example 3, and it involves approximating or estimating the square roots to the nearest hundredth. So if we have the square root of 81, that's a perfect square, that's 9, or plus or minus 9. And we have the square root of 100, that's a perfect square, that's plus or minus 10. But what if you had to find the square root of 90? It's between 9 and 10, but how would you figure out what the hundredths place was, to the nearest hundredths? There's 3 steps, and that's what we're going to be doing in this video. Step 1 is find the whole number part. So the square root of 90, well, the square root of 90, let's see, that's bigger than the square root of 81. You want to put it between 2 perfect squares, something smaller than it and something larger than it. So the square root of 90 is in between perfect square, square root of 81, and perfect square, square root of 100. So the square root of 90 is somewhere between 9 and 10. So the answer to find the whole number part, it's the smaller of the two. It has to be less than 10 because the square root of 10, or the 10 squared is 100, and I only have 90 to work with. So my whole number is 9. Now here's the tricky part to keep in order. What you're going to do is use these numbers. And you're going to take the middle of them, 90, the one you want to find, and you're going to subtract from it the smaller end, the smaller bound, 81. 90 minus 81 is 9. Then you're going to take the other end, the larger number, 100, and again subtract it from the lower bound or lower end. And 100 minus 81 is 19. Okay, so I took the number that I want to start with, or what I want to find. I want to find the square root of 90. I subtract it from this lower perfect square, 81. I subtracted it and I got 9. Then I took the higher square root, perfect square, 100, and then I subtracted it again. I'm using this lower bound of 81. Okay, so you're going to start with the number you want, subtract 81. Subtract from the higher number and subtract 81. Now, step 2, find the decimal part. The answer to the decimal part is 9/19. 9/19. 9/19. I cannot do that in my head. So, let's do it. 9 divided by 19. Add a decimal. Let's add 3 zeros because I want to estimate, or I want to round, to the nearest hundredth. Put my decimal up in my answer. Let's see, 9, that's too small. 90 into 19, that would be 4 times. 4 times 9 is 36, times 3, 476. Subtract them. 14, bring down the 0, 140. Let's see, 19 into 140, I guess, let's say 7 maybe? Oops. 7 times 9 is 63. 7 times 1 is 7, plus another 6, that's 13. Running out of space, 7 left. Oops, bring down the 0, 70. 19 goes into 70 3 times. 73 times 9, 27, times it by 2, 3, 4, 57, yeah, 13. Okay, so my 9/19 becomes 0.473. Because I want to round to the nearest hundredth, the 7, 3 is smaller than 5, so, oops, we don't need it. We're not going to round the 7 up to 8. So my decimal part is 0.47. My whole number part was 9. My decimal part was 0.47. Yes. Step 3 is adding them together. 9 plus 0.47, or 47 hundredths, is 9 and 47 hundredths. So the square root of 90 is approximately 9.47. Okay, and it makes sense. Let's go back to the question and see if it makes sense. Square root of 81, square root of 90, square root of 100. 90, there's only 9 more, and here there's 10 more. So it makes sense that the square root of 90 would be between 9 and 10, pretty much halfway. 9.47, that is about 9.5. Let's try another example. Example B, square root of 135. The square root of 135, let's see, the square root of 10 is 100. Square root of 11 would be 121. And the square root of 12 would be 144. So the square root of 135 is between the square root of 121 and the square root of 144. The square root of 135 is between 11 and 12. And 135 is 14 away from 121, and then it's 9 away from 144. So I expect it to be closer to 12 than 11, but we want to estimate it to the nearest hundredth. So we're going to work it out. The answer to our whole number is 11. Remember, we take the lower end. Step 2 is to find the decimal part. So again, we're going to start with our question, 135, and we're going to subtract the lower bound, 121. 135 minus 121 is 14. Now we're going to take the upper end, 144, again subtract it from the lower, 121, and 144 minus 121 is 23. So the answer to my decimal part is 14/23. Again, I can't do this one in my head either. These numbers very rarely work out easily. So let's divide 14 by 23, and let's add 3 zeros. Oops, decimal point here. Let's see, 23 goes into 140 maybe 6 times. 18 to 12, 138. 3, 1, leftovers 2, bring down the 0. 23 does not go into 20, so that's a 0. 20, bring down the next 0, 200. And 23 will go into 200 8 times maybe? 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 2 is 16, 17, 18. 16. Okay. So 14/23 is 0.608. Now I want to round it to the nearest hundredth. So I need to look at this number. 8 is greater than 5, which means I'm going to round 0.608 to 0.61. This 8 is greater than 5, so it makes the 0 go up 1.61. Here's my decimal part. Here's my whole number part. 11 plus 61 hundredths, 11 and 61 hundredths. So the square root of 135 is approximately 11.61. And from the beginning, we said that 135 was a lot closer to 144 here. So 144, 121, it's closer to 144. So we expected it to be closer to 12. It is 11 and 61/100 is closer to 12 than it is 11. That means our answer is reasonable. Okay, good job everyone. Please bring your notes to class and I will see you tomorrow. Good night.